carbonic acid. That carbonic acid starts to eat its way through the limestone, and that is how caves, caverns, and sinkholes are formed. That type of topography is called karst. So eventually these drips of water make their way to the cavern ceiling. They drip through and they leave a small calcite deposit behind, eventually building up into these formations that we call stalactites. That water will drip on the floor and it starts to build up stalagmites down here. You can distinguish these. So stalactites hang tight to the ceiling, stalagmites might drip on them if you're not careful. If the two grow together, you get a call. He got a candle, looked inside, discovered the cavern. It was open for commercialized cave tours just 2 years later in 1806, which makes it the oldest continually operating show cave during in the United States, even operating tours during the Civil War and COVID. So if you look up here, so you can just kind of see all the different areas we'll visit, and just to let you know, there are some low areas. Watch your head. I'll try to point them out with my flashlight, but just be aware. The ground's a little uneven. It's not brightly lit in there, so just use caution. Use the handrails when they're available. The stairs tend to get a little bit slippery, especially farther back. So, wait a minute, I think I see somebody.
Have you been into the new section?
I have not. I'm good with that. I mean, so with the new section, it's used for research a lot. Grand Caverns has a lot of unusual formations that you don't really see in other caverns. So some local universities come here and do research. They also, some caving groups go over there, and occasionally a group of guides will go over there. I think the last group of guides went, not this past November, but the November before. And when you do, you have to let EMS know. So say you say 5 hours, you can only go 2.5 hours in, and then you immediately have to turn around and come back, or they'll come and get you. So that's kind of how it goes. So this area that you're entering is called Solomon's Temple, named after King Solomon from the Bible. If you look behind you, right here, this formation right here is why they call it that. They thought it looked like a king's throne. It's actually a cave shield. Cave shields are very rare. Most caverns have 1 or 2. Grand Caverns has more than any known cavern at over 500. Geologists aren't sure why Grand Caverns has so many, and they really aren't sure how they form. It's a geological mystery. One theory is that you could have a medial crack in the ceiling, wall, or floor, and then water under hydrostatic pressure is pushed through, initially forming 2 discs like a sandwich, one on top of the other, with a very thin space between them, in theory, where the water would come through, and you can kind of see that crack running right along through there. So this formation that's right below it is called drapery. It's just thin sheets of calcite coming down. They come down at an angle, and at first, when they first start to grow, they come at a saw edge, a sawtooth edge, like you see right here. The sawtooth edge does continue down as they go down at an angle. It's just more obvious when they first start. Now, if I can get your attention to look at the ceiling, you'll see what we call vertical or overturned bedding. So geologists think that the Shenandoah Valley was once an ancient sea, and as the aquatic sea creatures died, they settled to the bottom, they decayed, and over time they became limestone that settled one layer on top of the other. Sometime in the distant past, there was a mountain. I'm going to go ahead, if y'all can just find your footing, I'm going to go ahead and turn the shield formation. You have the first shield, the second shield, the third shield attached to the floor with some cave bacon. Before that cave bacon helped support it, all that weight at an angle was just attached up here about 2.5 feet. And then right up here you see another vertical shield. People call it the angel wing, or cousin it. And then if you look behind us, you'll see a whole wall of that flowstone. You see a little calcite flow right here. Some people call it cave snow. And then right up here, so the cave was open during the Civil War tour tours. And throughout the cave, you're going to see a lot of spots like this. These are bullet holes from soldiers coming in here and using the walls and formations for target practice. This is another area that was used for target practice. They shot these stalactites and broke them off. As we walk back out into Cathedral Hall, you'll see this stalagmite right here. All that damage on there was also from target practice from Civil War soldiers. So half of it is just eaten away. So, I mean, and can you just imagine the ricochet, the smoke, the noise? I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. From where we're standing to the top of that rose garden there, it's 100 feet. Now from the rose garden through all the dirt and rock to the top of Cave Hill is another 100 feet. So we're 200 feet underground right now. Amazingly, we've only descended from the entrance 35 feet. It's a very high elevation cavern. We've just basically walked straight into the center of Cave Hill. It's kind of cool. Next section we're going into is just a very concentrated area of shields. There's about 30 different shields just in this small little.
Wow.
And if you go down to the gift shop, or if you were there already, you might see this. This is probably the most popular formation. It's embroidered on hats and shirts. It's on coffee cups. It's on cards. It's on brochures. It's on the website. So it's basically like well water. It's hard water. It's not filtered. It won't hurt you too much, but everybody else sticking their hands in there, that would probably be that's the key there. Now right up here, you'll see an original crock. It's broken, but around the edges, you see where cave coral started to develop in there. And this would have been the cave coral that developed underwater. What you see up here, these nodules, these are coralloids that develop above the water line. And this is just from seepage from that limestone wall behind us. They develop into these smooth nodules. Now this rock here is called Headache Rock for a reason. So just watch your head as you come through, and we're going to swing over to the left into this. European artist that came in here, and he drew a lot of pictures. And when you get, like if you're over in Europe, there's a lot of pictures that you'll see, and they're of Grand Caverns. And they called these things, these drapery formations, they called them lightning bolts. So it's kind of cool. But anyways, who asked me about that, the flooding in here? So the flooding would have come from this hole right up here in the ceiling. That waterfall would have fallen down. And there's actually a pit right here. It's a really big pit, and that water was flowing into that pit, and it just made a big pool, and it just naturally it flowed into the ground underneath of us, so it just got rid of itself. So this is Cathedral Hall. It's the largest room on the tour. It's 280 feet long. It's about 40 to 50 feet from where you are up to the ceiling. puppy with them. Her name was Rosie. She was being trained in cave rescue to smell the displacement of cave air. She started smelling around this section here. There was a big pile of rocks. They moved the rocks out of the way, and you see this little passage. It goes down about 15 feet to the left. You come to a small room down there. There's a very long tunnel. It's about an hour's worth of belly crawling through the mud in not very narrow passages before you get to an area where you can stand up. But those areas are 3 times larger than any area that we're going to visit on our tour. The largest being 900 feet long and over 100 feet high. It has running water over there. It doubled the amount of cave shields to over 500. But due to cave laws, that area will most likely never be commercialized. You can only move dirt, you can only move dirt, you can't move rock. So that probably will always stay natural in a virgin cave. So any questions before we leave? Good luck or blessings. So this area is called the zoo. You have to use your imagination in here a little bit. You may see a crocodile or a rockodile right here. And then an elephant or a mastodon here with its nose and its body. A big clamshell right here. A bird with its head and a wing on either side. A big jellyfish right here. Right over here you'll see another formation. They call it cave bacon, but it's really just roof. And that's just so we don't put any contamination into the water here in the cave. The pool right here in the front, they call it the wishing well. They used to allow people to throw money, take them home as souvenirs or what they call specimens. But if you look very close at some of these areas, you see where soda straws are starting to grow back. This is another area where the cave was damaged, and it's just that calcite-filled water is starting to grow back and make repairs on itself. And this is mature. And you're welcome to walk all the way down there. But that's the only evidence of really flooding in here. It didn't really flood in here. Largest room that's not on the tour. It used to be on the tour in the late 1820s, early 1830s, and then the tour guide said that there were ghosts back there that were blowing out the candles and torches. And they'd be stuck in the dark for several hours or a day or so until the next tour came through. This was all a lie, none of it was true. What they had going on back there was a mining operation. They had found this huge, massive geode, as big as this floor, back there, and they cracked it open and they found what they called dogtooth spark calcite. It's usually in the shape of a dog tooth, but the crystals here were developing into what looked like maple leaves. So they're breaking off these crystals and selling them for up to $100 a piece back in the 1820s and 30s. Crazy, crazy high prices. They eventually realized they weren't quite as rare as what they thought here on the East Coast, so they abandoned the operation, but that room never got put back on the tour. If you go back there, it's like an old rotting barrel. There's some rusted equipment back there. There's like a pit. There's some pools of water, but there still are several feet of that dogtooth spark calcite. It's very beautiful. If you're local and you want to do the Grottoes Crawl Tour, you get to go back there. So it is pretty, it's really big room, it's really nice. Right, this section here called the lobby, and then you would have descended down into the next room. So again, the Grottoes Land Company in 1889 used dynamite, and they blew out the section here. When they did, they broke off this rock. This is what exposed limestone looks like before any chemical weathering has occurred. This was well over 100 years ago, and it still basically looks the same as it would, you know, if you did it today. It's just a good example of how slow weathering happens inside the cavern. It looks like it might be slimy or waxy. It's actually from people's fingers, so people were encouraged to touch it so they could see what a stalactite felt like or stalagmite felt like. It feels like a rock because it's a rock. But the oils from their hands got on there, and they just absorbed into the calcite and basically made it waterproof. So it healed the formation. Water can no longer form called stalactite because pellets and Greek is to twist. So it ends up looking like that shredded coconut. It's kind of cool. It's basically like well water. It's hard water. It's not filtered. It won't hurt you too much, but everybody else sticking their hands in there, that would probably be that's the answer there. Now right up here, you'll see an original crock. It's broken, but around the edges, you see where cave coral started to develop in there. And this would have been the cave coral that developed underwater. What you see up here, these nodules, these are coralloids that develop above the water line. This is just from seepage from that limestone wall behind us. They develop into these smooth nodules. Now this rock here is called headache rock for a reason. So just watch your head as you come through, and we're going to swing over to the left into the